Questions or anything else?
Yeah, doesn't matter if you want to do it.
Maybe, you can kind of explain where you're so far with what you're thinking, and then we can certainly talk more, and just let them know that we discussed it.
So
the board of equalization will be delayed.
because they brought
As a team,
If you want to leave, we'll call you.
Okay.
that works.
Okay.
The time is quite good.
All right.
It's actually,
Oh, so you.
Well, that was the whole year last year. Well, basically, yeah, it's really.
Right?
I don't think we had a last month. It's like a pantry.
Call this meeting to order Monday, March 15th. Roll call, please.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
Boone.
Here.
Deline.
Here.
Doden.
Here.
Schott.
Here.
Swagan.
Here.
Tiedemann.
There's two changes that I know of to the agenda, and that would be under item number 6, under committee mayor reports, adding an electric discussion, and then a Beresford fire and rescue discussion. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
So take the executive session.
Oh, take the executive session off. Well, we can leave that, can't we? Just not, yeah, just in case.
Yeah. Don't go in, don't go in.
So you have electric and fire under number 6. Any other changes or additions? Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Doing so much.
Motion by Doden and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. March 1st minutes were sent out on Friday. Is there a motion to approve the March 1st meeting minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Tiedemann, seconded by
Deline.
Deline. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. We'll delay on the equalization board until the school board member is available. Visitors to be heard. Jensen. Thanks for coming.
I did send out a presentation. I assume you've all gotten that. Basically what we're looking for with the new power lines that run on the south side of the flying field out there. It does kind of effectively change how we can do our activities out there. And what we're looking for is at some point get an extra 100 feet off the north end of that and extend it to the west all the way to the drainage ditch that's there. I guess I don't know what else. I think I covered just about everything in the presentation. A lot of it has to do with a lot of the model aircraft that are flown there can't be flown under near the power lines, and the heavier stuff kind of due to the slope of the land, the way it drops down to the west. It may be long, but it's not effectively very long just due to the slope that it drops away at, and how the aircraft work. So we're hoping we get that extra 100 feet off to the north and extend it all the way. We fully realize that there's probably already contracts and investments made by the farmer who's renting that land. And we're under the realization we might not get it this year, but maybe next fall if we can get that, so we can start prepping that, get grass growing on it, get that going.
Fred, I was looking at your maps that you sent out to us. Jerry wasn't available today to talk to. Jerry Zymus, that is. But I was looking at the partial there that you have in the red.
Yep.
On the north side, and it crosses over into that kind of a greenish grassy area.
To the west.
To the west.
Yeah. I think there was, yeah, and what all that was, you're talking about looks like a northwest box.
Yeah,
And that's just when we have wind conditions and sun conditions, some airplanes could be flown north, south, the smaller ones off of that. What,
I guess my concern, and I don't know that we're gonna make any decisions tonight, but I'm not sure where the property lines fall on that. So I think that's probably what we have to find out first, on the west side
okay,
of that square box that you have there.
for the drain, on the west side of the drainage ditch?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So we'll have to check into that.
So that's the area to the east of what was that recycling center?
Yeah, yeah.
Between there and who owns that now?
That's the concern, I think. I don't know that, I'm not sure.
Well, west straight, the first straight west of the airplane club now. The old car recycling place, what's between there and the airplane club?
Contractor on the Sioux Falls, is their own recycling place.
We own to the drainage ditch, right?
I believe so.
So that tillable area, that's city ground.
I think the rectangle that you're talking about,
Right here.
that's not actually planes on the ground, that's planes in the air,
Yeah.
flying over the ground.
Oh, so we're not fencing that in?
No.
Oh.
That's just to show what would be a typical flight pattern for landing. That's what we're looking at there, the red boxes.
Okay, I had read that there was gonna be some fencing installed and
But, well, the club had put in fencing years ago, and we're actually looking to move some of that. That tends to be kind of a magnetic fence, tends to attract things that break easy. We're gonna take a lot of that out. It's stuff the club, like I said, put in years ago. At some point, probably not this year, next, we want a chance to try the new field layout. There's a lot of flight line fence that's in there that is no longer functionally usable because of the power lines. Some of that, at some point, you may want to see about being that relocated to the northern part of the field. Yeah, the red boxes kind of show the flight patterns and where we would land. And a lot of it depends on wind conditions. Prevailing wind is north-northwest along that axis. So most of it will be having to do crosswinds, if you think of it. Some of the smaller planes, though, will be forced to land north-south, but they're small enough that they can, if we got an extra 100 feet, they can navigate around the power lines.
So this other picture that you showed us, the blue one here, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's the area. You know,
Okay, well, I was a little confused on that. Okay.
yeah, I guess I didn't need to break up into yellow and the blue, but it's basically that area.
Okay.
And like I said, this particular summer, I'm guessing it's going to be soybeans there, so it's less of an impact. It's when they have corn, you get a strong southerly or west or northerly wind bringing a lot of the stuff in. You get quite a roller both off the berm and the corn, and things don't go as well.
Tom, if the council wanted to give them more land, what would that process be?
It's city-owned ground, so I mean, it's kind of like the gun club, it'd just be something that they use on an annual basis, or just taken out of any farm lease that we have with the tenant.
Is the farm lease per acre?
Yeah.
So that could be adjusted if the council decided. by
Yes.
2 acres less than whatever it was.
And the lease always has in there, if the city's gonna use it for some other purpose, they're entitled to do so. But if they put a crop in, then they have to pay damage.
Well, it's part of progress. We ran a new power line in there, so I think it's an unreasonable request at all to extend that to the north of the whole A couple acres for rent from this is $500 a year, so.
Like I said, the 2.25 acres is just a guesstimate based off of, 100 feet north and
Right.
scaling it off of Google Maps, so.
What's the process there?
I think if you want to do it this year, I don't know where, I assume Curtis has a lease on that, Jensen?
When does he pay his rent? And do we have a signed lease?
I don't know, I'd have to ask Jerry.
Yeah.
We have to
We
check it
did,
out.
we did a multi-year lease at one point, but I don't know where it's at in the status of that.
Jerry would know, but he's not able to make it tonight, so.
Yeah, and like I said, probably being soybeans this year. This year it's not quite as big of an impact. Next time it's corn, it becomes a bigger impact.
Right.
Yeah. So we can make plans for it at some point.
So,
Is anybody opposed?
No.
Can we look at the contract and
Yeah, that's,
yeah,
just, I mean, if it's nothing that's gonna happen next week?
let's look at the contract and determine if it needs council action or just something we can do.
Brad, you wouldn't go west of that drainage ditch?
no, I mean, it's a little bit of a barrier for us, but
Yeah,
there'll be overflight over that to the west, that's,
because Justin Johnson owns that little, there's kind of a triangular piece to the
Okay.
west there.
yeah.
So,
No, and the drainage ditch is one of those things where, we're hoping when it's added on to see, it'll still continue to mow that area, to leave a little bit of tall grass, because, like I said, the ditch in and of itself is a little bit of an obstacle for us, so.
sure.
Nope.
I'm good.
So that needs to be on the agenda for the next meeting.
If needed.
If needed.
Well, Jerry and Tom look at the contract, see if there's anything we need to do. If
Yeah.
council has to take some action and so go back on there, otherwise, if administratively, they can just work out the details of staking out the land or something, maybe before someone buys seed and everything else.
I do know he's probably already invested some, he's tilled it once already, so there's investment there already.
And if it's something you all say you'd rather wait till next year, then we wait till next year.
Well, it's not a showstopper if it's beans there. If he was putting corn on corn, it makes everything very much different. If it's gonna be beans, it's probably actually beneficial to us, because he'll tilt the corn stalks in, and it'll be bean stubble, which is easier to work with the following year, come fall.
So that would be something we get on Jerry.
Yeah, I'll talk to Jerry.
What his crop plans are.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Good, thank you.
Next up, is it Roz? Rose?
Rose.
Rose Engineering?
This is the time of year that we usually send out contracts or bids for, chip sealing. Did you guys talk to Jerry first, or that, okay, so anyway, there was an email that was sent, from Bros Engineering, this is Heidi and Blake. What they're doing is taking towns and making a collective bargaining thing.
Yep.
Is what their price was last year was not a lot different from what we paid. And then there's a lot of extra benefits that you're gonna gain by doing something with you this week. Should I just let you guys
Yeah.
explain that?
You can see.
Sure. So this will be our third year that since we kind of launched this concept, but basically we advertise to a lot of the small communities. Typically we've targeted in general, like under 3,000 kind of population sized towns all over the eastern side of the state. And then we'll see who's interested. We group them all together under one set of plans and specifications and do a public bid letting. We do all the design work. go out and inspect the roadways prior to, take all the measurements so you get a good estimate going in for your individual community prior to the bid letting. And then obviously you're subject to a little bit concept from there, but then upon receiving the bids, then it's up to, we do individual contracts between the contractor and the cities. So from there you can grow, shrink, or deny the award yourself as an individual community following the bid letting. And then I assist in all the contract administration stuff, making sure all the contract documents are signed between the communities and the contractor. And then moving forward, we also offer full inspection services as well during the construction process. Within our plans and specifications, we follow South Dakota DOT guidelines, application rates and everything, which includes contractor being responsible for the cleaning of the streets prior to any work being done. We also include what's called a fog seal, which is actually an additional asphalt coating application on top of the chip rocks once the chip rocks are placed. That requires the contractor as well to sweep up loose chips following their application of the chips. So that's taken care of. And then they apply the fog seal, which it's called, and they're pretty much out of town after that. So it's what we're also promoting for some communities is that it's a complete hands-off deal too on your end. If you're wanting to just alleviate yourself from all the headache and stress of it. And so that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. When it's all said and done, we track all the quantities. It's a one contractor bouncing around all these towns. And so we're tracking taking all the tickets for tonnage on the oil, tonnage on the chips, managing all that. And then when it's all said and done, I just provide you through your street superintendent. Here's your final quantities, pay applications, and you just can trust it's all done. And during the course of construction, we're monitoring their load weights of oil, making sure it's getting down, you're receiving the product that you're paying for. Rock is a big thing with the chip seals, not to apply too much, not to apply too little. And so there's actually, depending on conditions and circumstances, a lot of money that can be juggled around there if the right person's not paying attention to it. So I'm not saying that anybody's doing anything wrong today. That's just what we're out to provide to these small towns, and it's been pretty successful. So we just reached out to Beresford when we were kind of getting the ball rolling. I can't remember if it was in December or something.
Yeah, it was a couple month and a half ago we visited Jerry. And then there's some emails prior and following that, but
we've had our Sioux Falls office now for not a ton of years compared to some of the competing firms around here, but as we are starting to grow in our Sioux Falls location, we're just starting to reach out and see what we can give any assistance to more of these surrounding communities. So
I have two questions. What's a fog seal?
fog seal, it's what you'll see is an additional spray application, no different than the oil that you're seeing sprayed down prior to the chips, but it's done at a 0.07 oil rate, gallons per square yard rate, as opposed to about a 0.3 that's done prior to the application of the chips. And so it's a way that further protects the chips to get adhered to the surface.
It's stuff that makes you not get windshield cracks.
It does aid in that. It also, scientifically, it does provide an additional wear layer to oxidation, which oxidation is the biggest deterioration factor on asphalt. So what we do as well as what we're promoting is that if you're traditionally looking at a chip seal with the rock chips and just walking away at that point, you're probably, in that, depending on where, winters, amount of traffic, like a 4, maybe 5 year product. With this fog seal, you're getting that additional adherence of the chips, so they're going to start wearing off not as soon, and the oxidation protection that it offers, we're stretching it out. I'm saying 6 to should get 7 out of your product.
Okay, my second question. So if the individual contracts are between the contractor and the city, then how do you get paid? Is
So we have a separate service agreement with the city for our design and construction observations.
Are we paying somebody for that service now, Jeff?
No,
So that's an additional cost.
yeah, we're the ones that are, I'm the one that's making sure that they got their rate set, you know, and you can talk to the guy in the truck, but, you know, unless you can ride with him, you don't know if he's changing it or not.
Right. So based on what we normally spend, how much we do per year, how many streets we do per year, blocks, was there gonna be a cost change by adding the engineering into the process? And how's that cost factor out versus the extended life?
The 70,000 that, we budget for this covers anywhere from 45 to 48,000 square yards. Last year that ended up costing about, I think it was like $1.53, $1.54 a square yard, the way we did it. You guys know.
So yeah, I just plugged some numbers a few minutes ago actually. So roughly, if you're looking at 45,000 square yards on your $70,000 budget, you'd be right at plus or minus $1.54, $1.55 per square yard. Divide that annually on a 4-year life of your chip seal, you're talking $17,500 a year value. So what some of the towns that I'm a lot more involved with their entire management of their utilities and street system, but I've kind of got them going, if we're targeting a 6 to 7 year life cycle on these, let's do a third of the town every other year. And so in order for you to take your, let's say, 45,000 square yards every year, I'm going to say you have 180,000 square yards total. Divide that back by 3 to start doing thirds every other year. You would be looking at, $114,000 every other year. Divided by a 6-year life, that's $19,000 worth of value. So basically, our services you would be seeing, that's based off our prices last year, since we're comparing to your stuff last year. It's about $1,500 more, but you're getting us to completely manage it and watch it and do all the work for you. So that's how the numbers play out, I guess. It's pretty close.
$1,500 delta, that's in a nutshell.
Sorry.
That's all right, I'm glad you did the math.
Yeah.
Our price last year was about $1.65 per square yard, versus, what did you say, $1?
About 53, 54.
About 53.
And then yes, our services would be in addition to that. That's why you can figure another 18 to 20 cents for our services, so it gets us up about $1.85 to 90. Last year it would have been.
When we talked to Jerry, one of the biggest things that he had discussed was just all the work beforehand, all the work during and after that they were having to do while Top Coat or whoever was in town weighing oil trucks, using your guys' sweeper to clean up all the chips, and there were some oil issues, and then the oil gets on the sweeper and such. That this operation takes all of that out of the equation. I think that if you took all the time that your city guys had on this project and you figured that into your square yard, you'd be much higher than what, I know you'd be much higher than what you're actually paid. So that's just one of the factors that isn't often considered.
Well, that was
In
my
the
next question
equation.
for Jeff, is what's the cost of our involvement if we have total hands off?
Well, so it's gonna free up us to do other, you know, we can still do our asphalt and whatever. You know, the sweeping up the chips after they leave town, you know, we'd like to let them sit 3 weeks, a month, maybe try to get them the traffic to pound them in. We spend a lot of time sweeping them up. If there's an engineer watching all of this take place, and policing, so to speak, that's what we're doing, is policing when they come to town. You know, that frees up the day or two that those guys usually take.
So you're recommending that we give it a shot?
I would say so.
And you're getting the same impression, so.
Yeah. One of the other big things is, in the wintertime, if anybody lives on, well, the chip seal, people that live on the chip seal streets now, are you finding them in the lawn and?
What? I've heard it 2 or 3 times already.
Yeah. That fog seal should help seal that stuff down. You know, sometimes you don't find as much, but then there wasn't probably enough rock applied in the first place. And when we sweep, we can't get them all up anyway. It takes 2, maybe 3 passes, and you know, you see what you got. And I don't like, you know, I get people calling complaining about rocks in their yards, and you know, it's just.
Have you ordered or bid out for rock ready this year? Is that something you've done?
This is, well, Jerry asked, he asked for your authorization to go to bid a couple meetings ago. I told him, let's wait and see what these guys had to say. Keith and I met with them over dinner one day, and you know, it sounded like a win-win situation for us.
I just got a question. I did drive on several roads that had fog seal over the last couple of years, and there's no comparison. Chips don't fly up, there's no dust. I mean, it's pretty impressive, the difference.
Well, they were sweeping it earlier too. They're sweeping before they fog seal, right?
Yeah. I do want to do a disclaimer. There's still a chance that there might be a few rocks in a yard. It's not a zero product. But yeah, it is better. Yeah. And I mean, you know, just the side benefits, you know, just the black color with ice conditions and stuff, the sun, it doesn't hurt to have your streets a little darker toned too.
Well, the oil is about $27 a barrel more than it was last year too.
We bid 1 county job last week, and I'm opening up Bonholm tomorrow. Not seeing a lot coming through on our bid letting yet. Maybe 5%.
Okay.
So
that's good.
No guarantees either, but that's what we're seeing.
So we could agree to enter into this, but are we bound by this in any way?
Is it a year-to-year type thing, or?
Yes,
Yep.
year to year.
So you bid it out, same specs for all the communities? And so it's just a matter of you have one community that does the bidding, and then everybody just, or is it a joint bid, or?
Yeah, it's a joint bid. It's one bid manual and bid form. Each town has their own, for each individual town, we have a mobilization bid line and traffic control bid line. Otherwise, all the unit prices for the rock and asphalt, oil, and fog seal oil are all unit prices.
So what percentage of the town do we do now? Because you recommend doing a third of the town every other year?
I like that concept because it fits the lifespan of this product better than the non.
And what do we do now, Jeff?
We're not coming anywhere near to a third of the town.
Okay.
You're doing it every year.
I think you set up.
Yeah, you do a certain area every year. Are we doing the town every 4 or 5 years? We turning it that way?
No, I'd say we're probably getting to 6 and 7 years before we're getting back on some of the streets we have done previously.
What we would do, Blake or someone in the construction admin would come down and take a look at the areas that Jeff would like to do, and basically get a measurement from that, from what he thinks or thinks needs to be done. We like to wait a little while until spring hits and we see if there's any breakup, because that might change. But it would be pretty soon here, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The next couple weeks.
That part's not gonna change for us. You know, we'll go ahead with the paver and, you know, if it's broke up, clean it out and fix the edges next to the flow line. Do any other patching, that won't change, but the rest of it will. That would make a big difference. We don't have to pick up chips. And we got somebody watching, and a reputable company that's, you know, they've got a job to do, and
I'm in favor of it. We don't have to take any action on that, Tom, right? It's just
What you did 2 meetings ago, you think, authorized to go out for
For
bid?
bid.
I assume you put together.
What we do have is
Service
our
contract.
service contract. Pending winter snowstorms, it was my intent the next 2 to 3 weeks, getting through all the towns, making our plans, getting it advertised for bids, so it could get bid the second half of April, or we could open bids no later than May 1st. And so, anyway, we would want probably this to get approved so that I could start diving into that, prior to your next council meeting.
I think it's only fair to talk to Jerry and Jeff in the non-city council meeting and see if this is the way the street department wants to go with it as well.
My concern is if we authorize something here, but we're gonna spend over $70,000.
We've gotta go to bids.
And if they went the lowest bid, how can we enter into the agreement now with
Well,
service and costs?
they're gonna solicit bids, rather than the city just advertising on its own.
Okay.
They're gonna advertise as a group of communities. So the hope is that with the quantities that you realize some savings.
Is that, we can enter into, they'd basically be like a third party.
Well, they would be the city's representative for preparing the bid specs. So, and then the bid would go out, as I said, the number of communities would be involved, but you'd take your quantities out of there, so.
We can legally do that.
So
Doing it every other year instead of doing a sixth of it every year for a 6-year cycle, or doing 1/3 of it every other year for a 6-year cycle, your savings is the mobilization. They only have to travel here, they stay here till they're done. We only have a budget really for so much, so if we're gonna propose doing the whole city, 1/3 of the entire city this year, and then 2 years from now another third, 2 years from that another third, that could drastically increase this year's expenditure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe you're
But
looking
then
at just
no
doing what you got
expenditure
budgeted for this year.
Yeah.
But then no expenditure next year for the chip seal.
Well, that's what I was thinking, we would, about what we have budgeted this year, and then look at that for the budget process next time.
I mean, can we do 1/6?
You can do it.
So we don't exceed our budget this year?
Yeah, and I kind of rewrote our work order, so that it's tailored towards whatever volume you're doing. Last year, we had Gettys that did, about 12,000 square yards, and Platt that did 85,000 square yards. So our services will follow in value according to how it's written up. The more you do, the more, it's not gonna cost you as much doing a little less, so doing volume.
So we wouldn't have to spend double this first time.
Right.
No. Just spend what we have budgeted.
Yeah, and then that
And
way.
then next year,
If you wanna do that program, then you skip next year and put the money for the following year.
right.
Plan for it,
Okay.
yeah.
So are we gonna vote on it tonight, or are we gonna wait, or what are we gonna do?
I hate doing it without Jerry's input.
I think we need to talk to Jerry and Jeff in a non-city council meeting environment and decide if that's where we wanna go with it.
And then we can put it on the agenda in 2 more weeks. Is 2 more weeks gonna make an effect or no?
Oh, that would be fine if you guys are comfortable with that.
So can the committee that does streets get together and
Yeah.
What's that?
have a chat?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to all 3 weeks, it's like the
3 weeks?
5th of April.
That's about when you wanna go out to bid, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be really quick turnaround then for us to get you added in at that point. Could be done.
It's kind of a special circumstance, our city administrators are only at these meetings, but he's not able to make it due to some personal reasons, so.
So
So if you're comfortable with that, being you're a new client, things like that, I'm more than willing to work with you, so.
let's get the committee together and have them come up with a recommendation on the budget and all the terms.
Yeah, if we wanna go over budget this year and do a third, or
Whatever.
burn up the budget this year and then get on some sort of track going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We want to go back to the equalization, can we do that? Do we have to bring another person in? One person left. I thought someone left.
That would be Glendon.
Do we do this as part of the regular meeting, or does it?
We actually recess and convene as a board of adjustment.
Do we have a motion to recess or not?
Well, we don't have everybody here, can we just,
I do.
The others are here.
Are you representing Glendon?
He's coming.
Okay.
He's coming back.
you'll be here by the time they're done, you think?
We don't need a motion to recess, right?
No, I think you just recess and.
We'll recess the city council meeting and convene the local board of equalization. Call to order the board of equalization.
Anderson,
Present.
Boone,
Here.
Deline,
Here.
Doden,
Present.
Schott,
Here.
Swigan.
Here.
Keeman.
Here.
And Johnson.
Agenda was sent out with 3 requests for hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Doing so moves.
Second.
Motion by Delaney and second to adopt the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted. First item on the appeal request is Mr. Randy Henderson.
Okay,
Hello.
well, I guess I presented my evidence. Have you got that?
Yes.
Copies of the?
Yeah.
Well, and when I looked through it, in 2016, my structures were 20,000. And then in 17, I added a $31,000 structure. And my tax bill jumped to $212. The reason I didn't catch it is because I thought that was for both of them. In 2018, I added another $33,000 structure. And now my structure, is assessed at $403,000. My total assessment, the land seemed to stay pretty close to the same. So apparently, I'm paying about $200,000 more assessed structures than what I had built. Well, it's actually more than that. I only added really $65,000 worth of structures, and now it's up to 403. So
Those are structures you built yourself, or that was labor material, the amounts you're giving us?
that's the amount for the structure. The rest is all accessory. There's cement and doors and labor and stuff. That's structural expense.
With the 30-some thousand you're giving us, that was materials, labor, concrete, everything for each structure?
No, that was the structural cost.
Just the materials, or the materials and the labor?
It would be materials and labors for that structure.
Okay, thank you.
Randy, how many structures are you saying that you have?
Well, there's 2 new ones and the one old one that was always valued, in 2016, before I built anything, it was valued at $20,974.
Okay.
2017, I added, $31,000 in materials and structure. 2018, I added another one exactly the same, like $32,000. That, and I presented the bill there. They just didn't break out on the second in 2018. They didn't break out the doors out of that total bid.
Am I reading this right? It says he has 4 structures, all valued at that email saying 95,000 a piece for 4 structures.
So between 2020 and 2021, did you add a structure?
No. No, I just added those in 17 and 18. And, yeah.
So the question is, your total assessed value for 2020 was $411.35, right?
Right. And
last year it was $334,517.
Right.
So there was a $75,000 increase, roughly.
Only structures I added were in 18 and 19, and of course, the tax bill doesn't come till next year. But,
So your total price that you paid for the building in 2018 was $157,000 to Haug Steel?
that was doors, cement.
That's all part of it though. It was $157,000 building, doors, cement, building, labor.
Well, those pieces are considered accessories. Yeah, that was total for cement and everything.
Well, but that's all part of the building, the concrete, the doors, the framing, the walls.
And its driveway and the
Right.
doors, and it's to make it a functional
So
structure.
the one building that was put up in 2018 was $157,000.
Total.
And what are they assessing it for on taxes? That one building, that 20 by 150 that was put up in 18.
Well, almost 200,000. It went up. It went from 20,000 to 212 with just the one structure.
So that was $190,000 assessment increase, I'm saying.
Yeah, and then
From
the next
17
time,
to 18.
the next structure that was added in 2019 to the tax assessment went up another 200,000. And and the total, even for all the accessories, wasn't that much.
And you already had the land. So really, it's just.
Well, the land really didn't go up much.
Right, I'm saying you already own the
Right.
land. You're just putting a
Right.
building on the land you already own.
Right.
So the assessment shouldn't go up more than the cost of the building.
Well, exactly. It shouldn't go up any more than the cost of the building.
I should have printed these out, I'm trying to read them on my phone.
Yeah. Well, we had some printed out, but maybe we didn't.
Lock my screen, that's my.
But I go to, just to pour concrete, you have to have a building permit. Putting concrete under a building increases the value of that building. If you ask me, I mean, the value of that land, if you put a new driveway in, is better than a dirt driveway. And I think we have to look at the land improvements with it.
Well, land did go up some.
Because Randy, if you were to sell this, I guess if I'm gonna ask that question, is if you were to sell this, you would want to be compensated for those land improvements that you did on top of
It
the
does,
building.
but it doesn't really amount to anything until it cash flows itself at a certain rate. And that's true with housing and everything.
But if you don't want the tax to be assessed on it, then you're saying that you will sell it for nothing because it doesn't have any value.
No, you sell it for what the market will bear, but it's not worth anything until you use it and make an investment out of it.
And you've invested by putting that money into the cement and, right? I mean, you've invested that extra money because you wanted the nice driveway, the accessible to the building, all of that. So
It's
you'd
still
expect to
assessed
get your
at
investment back out.
50,000 more than it costs for all that.
Sure. Yep, no,
On
I'm
both
not,
buildings.
I'm just saying, I'm going with Troy here that I think we have to include those accessories to that as well. Sorry, Milton.
Well, I'm just
wondering if you're all aware of what happened in Union County this last year. You know, according to state law, we have to have everything assessed at least 85% of full and true value. Well, last April, the state notified us that we were only assessed at 83%. So, pardon me, 82%. So what we had to do, everything, I don't care where it is in Union County except for ag land, we had to raise approximately 3.5% to get up above 85%. So every house, or every building in Beresford or Elsester or wherever in Union County seen a fairly good raise, and that's the reason for it. And that goes by sales. And the sales, you're probably aware of what sales of the housing market is, and I think I can probably safely say we're going to have this same thing again next year. So that's part of the reason everybody's went up.
You add that 3.5% to an extra $100,000 that didn't cost to build that building, that's more yet.
Well, I'm not saying that, but that's what I'm saying is that.
Sure, I understand that.
That particular case, I can't tell you about that, but I'm just talking about everybody, everything.
You're saying the whole county was underassessed by 3%,
Right.
not each property, but the whole county as a whole, the
Yeah.
whole sum. So his might have been 50% too low, and maybe mine was right on, but it all averages out for the whole county at 3.5%, is what you're saying.
Every property went up 3.5% in order to get above that 85%.
Oh, so I
Because if
misunderstood.
we don't stay, we go by a year, if the county doesn't meet that 85%, the state will come in and reassess it, and we don't want them to do that. But necessarily, just because the assessment goes up doesn't necessarily mean your taxes go up.
So what I'm looking at here, Randy, so there's 4 buildings out there now, plus the Quonset. 2 of the buildings are, must be combined, right, or connected?
Yeah, each year, well,
So
2 of them little buildings.
So building number 1 and 2 are assessed at $95,931. Which one of the, which building was erected in 18? Is that building 3 and 4?
Yeah.
That was the last building that went up?
Mm-hmm.
That was, so they have that now assessed at 190, and it was 157,000 3 years ago to construct. That's what you're saying? Do I have those in line? That's the building?
Yeah.
And buildings 1 and 2, are they all the same size? 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah.
It's just that 3 and 4 are assessed together? Okay. Lane, did you and Jerry review this?
Are these the storage units?
Yeah.
And you built them from the south to the north, right?
Right.
Tom, so Jerry's the one that's most familiar with all this, but he's not here. If he's available by phone, can we call him? For the purpose of this. Jerry is evaluating and assessing all this information that's coming before the board, so that he can advise the council, right? This equalization board.
I don't know if he does he?
I mean, I scanned the packet to him and then he scanned it to you guys and then we were gonna meet today and review it. But
The property owners bring all the information forward.
Okay.
That's all their information.
Right.
That's not his research on it.
Does a property owner propose what they think it should be valued at?
Yes.
And what is the value you believe it should be valued at?
Well, it's obvious that it was assessed at, each time, 200,000, well, the $50,000 more than the cost to build for total each time. So it'd be $100,000 too high totally. if you go by the bills that I have.
Well, we have an email from the county, from Tara Moreland. She must work in the assessor's office.
Deputy assessor.
So she gave us a breakdown for the land and the paving, then the Quonset, building 1, building 2, and then the final one is building 3 and 4 combined. So she has the land and the paving, or the county has the land and the paving, combined assessed value of $83,760. Do you think that's fair? Let's take this one line at a time. The land and all the concrete that services the buildings, driveways, all that kind of stuff.
At 83,000 for the land and the cement?
They have they have the land and the concrete, the exterior concrete, not the concrete under the buildings. Driveways, aprons, that kind of stuff.
That's still a little high, yeah.
What do you think is fair?
Well, it shows there the building was 31,000, the doors were 36,000.
No, we're not talking about the buildings. We're talking about the bare ground and the concrete on the bare ground. Not the concrete for the buildings, the concrete for the driveways, approaches, outside the buildings. What is assessed at $83,760? That's what this assessment has. So what's a fair assessment in your opinion?
Well, I never separated it out, but that would be.
You're the one that's most familiar with your property. I'm not, so that's why I want to break it down like this so that we can all follow along, because we're jumping all over. So let's skip that for now. What's the size of the Quonset? Because that's assessed at $20,974.
50 by 200.
So it's a 10,000 square foot electrical, concrete, any of it insulated, finished as an office, bathroom, anything like that in there?
Oh, sure.
So that's assessed at $20,974. You think that's high or low, Randy?
Well, for what the structure was when it was built, yeah, it's.
What its value now?
Yeah.
You think that's fair? Or too low or too high? Or right in the sweet spot?
It's in the sweet spot, it's where it's always been.
So you think that's 85% of the replacement cost of that Quonset, as it stands. So if they're a little high on the land, but maybe a little low on the Quonset, we'll call that a push.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the next building number 1, it's one of the smaller, there's 2 smaller ones and then 1 bigger building out there, right? Storage units?
Yeah.
Okay. So that first building's assessed at $95,931. What do you think's a fair assessment for that? That's what the county has it at. That's the whole thing, to rebuild it, just as it is, the concrete that's under the footprint of the building.
Just the building?
Building, labor, concrete, doors, everything. Total turnkey package for that structure.
I think you could get them built for less than that now.
Well, half of that 3 years ago was roughly 80 grand. It was 157,000 for a building twice the size, right? From Howard Steel. 3 years ago. You provided us a copy of that. It was 157,000 and change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it was $78,500 was your cost of construction for that building 3 years ago, and now they have it assessed at 95. What do you think is a fair assessment?
Where do you come up with 95,000?
That's what the county has for the building number 1. There's 95,931. That's the assessment for that structure.
Well, it doesn't show that on my taxes. It shows that it increased $200,000 during that year.
Tara sent us this email to Elaine, breaking it down for us, each component, the land, the Quonset, building 1, building 2, and then the 5th item.
I think what Randy's counting is 1 building, she's got is 2.
Right.
Cause together, 190,000 is what these two buildings would have increased it in 2016. So it went up 200,000, you're saying?
Pretty cool.
Pretty
County
close,
and
190,
state,
yeah.
290,000, yep.
So it's still $50,000 more than it cost to build.
Well, they got it at 190 and it was 157 in 2018 to build it, so it's $33,000 more than.
No, these are the 2016 buildings. So they're $45,000 assessed $45,000 more than what it cost him to build.
In 17, yeah.
5 years ago.
And the same thing holds true for the building I built in 2018, went up another 200,000.
Or it cost 190. Or assessed at 190.
All the buildings are roughly 95,000 apiece.
Correct.
So they're assessing them at about $17,000 per building more than what it actually costs to build each building. Because 157 divided by
Right.
2 buildings.
Yeah, but this is based on 2020 value, right? That's what we're paying.
The land hasn't changed value in 3 years. So they haven't adjusted that and still haven't adjusted it. Right?
It's been adjusted every year, a percentage.
But in 19 it was 83,760.
Yeah.
In 20 it was 83,760. And in 21 it's 83,760.
Yeah, it stayed the
So for
same.
3 years the land value, just the land hasn't changed.
Right.
And for each building, you're building the buildings and they're assessing them at about $17,000 more than the cost most recently built buildings.
Yeah.
Is that
If you look at total cost.
total cost?
Yeah, she says she did, yeah.
So assuming that the value of your building increases a little bit every year, like most properties do, and you keep them up in good condition, it's probably cost you more than $157,000 today to build 2 buildings. It's probably $175,000 today.
Probably.
Something. So instead of 95, because the land's kind of set, and I don't think there's much to do there. The question to me is, if each of the 4 buildings is nearly identical and is valued by the county at $95,900, what do you think, what's the number that you think the building is worth that's less than 95,000? So you build it for about 75, and now they've got it 95, so somewhere between 75 and 95, where do you put that number?
Well, the last current number we had was about 78.5. Was half, was one building.
Well, let me answer. So it's about 75 to 95, where do you put that value?
Well, it would be somewhere in there, I'm sure.
Like, what number do you want us to consider?
Well, I want to consider the, I didn't know what they had it assessed at. all I knew is that they put the value.
No, I understand, but I mean, assuming the land value hasn't changed, and the properties are about 90, or the buildings are about 95,000 apiece, what, do you think they're worth 90,000? 85?
They're probably worth 95,000.
But if you say 95,000, they're assessed at 95,931.
Well,
That's,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I was just pointed out, and so in 2017, they increased his land value by the paving. That is part of that 150,000 or 145,000 that he paid, because the approaches are listed on there as accessories. So those first 2 buildings really only cost him $115,000 to build the 2 of them.
What's the discretion?
Is what,
5,000 a building. Do you know what that discretionary means?
They did not, though, from what I can see, they did not raise
No,
the
not fun.
land value again with the second 2 buildings. It was just what the first 2 buildings.
Probably just reduced that,
That's the 2040-16.
So this is
Oh, I got
the,
one.
this is the.
So really, what you're proposing is somewhere between 60 and
This is the
95.
concept.
For the first two.
For the first two.
For the first two. For the second two, I think it's somewhere in between that 70,000 and 90,000.
Well, yeah, for.
So those two added together, 180.
No, I know.
Because it's 63 for land and 20 for paving. But that 20
Quite a bit over.
It's part of that.
was
land.
part of that 2016, $145 bid.
Good discretionary.
No, we just make a recommendation to the county.
Right. They'll have to go down to the county.
Do we make a recommendation per building?
Did they use that? Did they
Or
use
total?
that?
I think total. You could
It's
certainly
listed
say
on the
your
discretionary.
Yeah, that's up to.
They're looking
that's
for an
up to
overall
the city.
number.
There's one issue here is the Quonset's grossly undervalued.
Did you use that?
Yeah. Well, last borrow for 25 grand.
I'll give you a question.
Plus you gotta buy the land.
You're 40 in that.
I mean, I think it's building size. That's not very
You know if you done that?
I don't know. Cause I never get the breakdown on your tax statement, the breakdown.
So it's,
Well, that
There
is-
was $90,000
use that,
in
not the
storage.
county. Yeah, that.
Right.
so it's about 62 grand of each of those buildings without paving.
Probably somebody, that's.
The first.
First,
For the first
building
two.
one and building two.
Yeah.
You're still 200,000. Buildings three and four cost us.
So Randy, so how this works is you have to ask us and advise where you want them assessed. And I think for simplicity, I think we should break it down the way the county gave it to us, broke down. So the land and the paving that was done in 2016 is assessed at 83,000. They have 20,000 in there for paving and 63 for the fairground. So what do you think's a fair assessment for that?
That was done in 17,
When buildings 1 and 2 were put up.
and 17.
Yeah,
Well, that's when it made the biggest jump of 200,000.
right, but you put $150,000 for the buildings and pavings up, and then they probably adjusted the overall assessment, and that's how you went up 200,000. But,
So the same thing holds true for 2019.
right, because that was, yeah, you put $157,000 improvement on the land, and then they raised your assessed value, whatever, I don't know what the exact total was after 18, but, so let's break it down so we can move forward here. Where do you think is a fair assessment? You think the 83 for the land and the paving is a fair assessment?
Yeah.
So that's okay. How about the Quonset at 21,000? Under assessed probably?
Probably.
Okay, let's skip that and go to building 1 then, knowing that we're under assessed on the Quonset. So the $95,900 assessment for building 1, which when we adjusted the building cost is about, it cost you about 62 to put that up because they put the paving up with the land, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it cost you about 62 5 years ago to put that up. What do you think's a fair assessment now? Because we're gonna use that number for all 4 buildings. It's the same value for each building, because they're all identical.
They've got it assessed at 95,000.
Yep. What do you think? What are you asking us to ask them to reassess it to?
Well, I didn't understand how it could be assessed as over what it costs to build. So, obviously, each set of buildings would be $30,000 less than what it costs to build, at least.
I agree with you. I think the assessment is higher than current costs. I agree with that. Not 30 grand. So I just I was at House Steel last week and visiting with them about construction costs, so I have an idea where things have gone.
Oh yeah, I got a good idea.
So, I would say in the 2 previous years, your 68,000 that it cost for the 2 buildings that you put up in 18 would probably be closer to 80 before this year's increase. You think 80 to 85 is fair?
It probably is now.
So what about the Quonset? Should we ask them to raise that or leave it where it's at? Just ask. So if we say, I think 85 would be a real reasonable assessment for each of those 4 storage units.
Troy, I would agree because they had already put that 20,000 for land improvements up in with the land and the paving. So I think taking 10,000 off.
On the first 2 buildings they did, but the second 2 buildings they didn't.
Right.
Right.
That's why I would agree with taking 10,000 off of each of building 1 and 2.
Right. So 85,000 you think would be a fair ask for each of the 4 buildings? So it'd be 170 for the building 3 and 4, and then building 1, 85, building 2, 85. And the 3 and 4, for some reason, assessed together.
Yeah.
Instead of split, so. But you don't think we should ask to raise the
No, I don't.
Okay, all right.
It looks good from the outside.
So you think that one's okay?
What's your total?
Oh boy. So we got 340 plus the 20 and the 83.
You can just take 40 off the building.
$444,734, if I did my math right. Is that what you had in mind?
Apparently.
Well, that's what it adds up to, Randy. I don't know.
What's the discretionary, Tom? It doesn't,
New commercial construction with value of 30,000 or more, or improvements to commercial property, 30,000 more taxed. 20% the first year, 40, 60, 80. That's true of any commercial property in the city limits.
so your total,
But you still do the full assessment. The county takes care of the discretionary formula part when you do the tax.
so your number was 444,074?
444,734. And they currently had it at 487,328.
Do we vote on that?
Yes.
Okay.
That was
So you just need a total assessment in the motion, or?
I think you separate the land from the buildings,
Right, correct. Each.
All right, so Doden moves that we recommend an assessment for Randy Henderson, a land value of $83,760, and buildings value at $360,974. If I did the math right in my head. You want me to do it?
That's right.
369.74. Yep.
Go ahead, I'll second.
It brings it to a total of
444,734. Motion by Doug and seconded to recommend a land value of $83,760 and a property value of $369,774 for a total of $444,734. Any further discussion? Russ, you want to weigh in on this?
No.
No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Clear as can be?
Yeah.
Next item.
I'd go pound some dents or something in that Quonset if I read.
Yeah, it's got them.
Mr. Glendon Knudsen.
Yes.
How you doing?
We need to see how it's in the township.
I guess what I need is I need those numbers that Tom has over there.
They're in your packet, so before he presents that, though the assessment card also shows that it's in Prairie Township, which it is not. It was annexed into the city last year. That is going to be taken care of at the county level. No actions needed on part of the city for that portion of it. So. We've been Elaine and I have been in communication with Tara, and that was just a miscommunication between county offices that's been, or will be resolved, I presume.
Yes.
Commissioner, you just did?
Yep.
Okay.
I am disagreeing with the assessment of the building. I'm not disagreeing with the land portion. The building is assessed at $371,479. I have all the receipts for building the building, and the receipts add up to $347,127. And that's, I guess that's what I'm asking for you guys to consider. I don't know dollar-wise what that reduction is. Along with the land, the 362, and along with the land, it was assessed at 386. What's the difference of that?
$24,352.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
The request is for $347,127
On the structure.
on the structure, and land value being the same. Is there a motion for that or something close?
Well, that's about as true and current of an assessment as
Yes, it is.
You just finished the building.
Yeah, it's.
Any other improvements that you've made to it yourself that aren't figured in there? Permanent, like shelving is generally not considered part of the structure.
That's probably what I would have put in there, yeah, along with a lot of antiques.
Your hoist wouldn't be considered part of the taxable structure or anything like that, so.
And for personal information, we would have loved to open that up to the public a month or two ago, but because of this doggone virus, we said that's probably not a smart thing to do. However, a lot of us are getting our shots now and we're starting to feel a little safer, so I'm quite confident that we will open it up to the public sometime in April. I know the Lions Club has already contacted me about having a meeting there on the 20th, I believe, and we've agreed that we would do that. That has nothing to do with mine. That's
nice to know.
That's useless information. Useless. I know there's a lot of people that are curious what's in there and what's going to happen. And I meant to put something in the paper about it so people would be a little aware of the fact that we will open it up, but we haven't because of the virus.
So you made a motion for $20. Don't news that
This building isn't used for. There's no business. There's nothing in there that's business. I mean, we're not selling anything or manufacturing anything.
The only thing that we talked about at length was cement or concrete.
All of that concrete is through the general contractors.
Javers.
That would be Javers Construction. All of that concrete, I guess that adds up to, well, it's
a lot.
yes, a lot.
Mike had a good question. And maybe Mel, you might chime in on this. So how did the county then come up with their assessment of $371,000 versus the?
Well, I can't tell you exactly. They get the building information from the building permit. I don't know what your building permit, what exactly the dollar amount was.
I guess I don't either.
Okay, well, that building permit gets sent to the assessor's office, and that's probably where they got their information. So I don't, if you don't know how much it was.
Well, the general contractor put that in there, and I do know that actually the building did come in under that value because we had we had one of those bids that was for the HVAC that was twice as high as what it cost us. So
That would be a reasonable explanation. 5% reasonable.
But they took care of the building permit, so you don't agree.
yeah, I had nothing to do with the building permit.
That's normal.
Is there a motion on the value?
So I make a motion for Knutson, $347,127.
Second.
Motion
On the structure.
That's structure and land.
Structure and land?
Yes.
That's a structure, the land's separate.
No, isn't that both?
Yeah, but they need to have it separate.
Oh, yeah, no, that is the building.
Yep.
That is
We're not requesting anything on the land.
Yeah, I'm not requesting any
Okay.
change on the land.
Keep it to the building that Freeburg advises. He's a smart man.
Sorry.
I trust him.
So motion by Schott and seconded to recommend the structure value of $347,127. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I did get my birthday cake, so now I can go.
Happy birthday.
That little, it isn't mine, we're celebrating somebody else's.
Nathan.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Oh, happy birthday, Nathan.
Thank you for helping the Lions.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, Mr. Jerry Hansen.
Yeah,
Hi.
well, most of the assessments are just way too high. Starting with the land. There's about 6-8 acres of it that's pretty worthless. The city uses me for a storm sewer. Dumps all the water on me down there. And it's useless most years. Yeah, it's valued at what? 87 something. I figured 75 would be about what it's worth. And the owner occupied building.
Jerry, on the land, how many acres is that? If you were thinking 75,000, how many acres
Total? 33.
33?
So according to the county, Jerry, the state actually sets the land values, not the county. You know, Milt, what are they using for the state? What are they using that basis on?
Well, they are trying to change it now. They've been using the soil type. But now they're trying to change it somehow to productivity, and I'm not sure if they got that done or not. But, what would that be per acre, Jerry, you know?
The part that's no good?
No. I mean, for the whole thing.
I didn't figure it.
This is 2650.
That's compared to what most, that's pretty consistent with about what that area would be.
I just got one question. Jeff, you're the speaker department of sewer and water. I'm on that committee. What he's talking about with the drainage, is he correct?
I guess I'm not, I
I don't know
don't see
anything
anything.
about that.
I'd have to stop this.
Everything north of Maple Street, east of the railroad tracks, all drains in on me. Basically, a holding pond for the,
What do you estimate the area? Give or take a rough.
I said 6-8 acres.
Okay.
It'd be underwater for quite some time on a wet
It's
year.
non-farm, it's not farmable, or?
No,
So if we take 2650 up to 6 or 8 or part of it, yeah, could we do that? I mean, if it's possible that the city using part of that water for holding, Tom? Or is that asking?
Well, the state sets the land prices for ag land. County doesn't do that.
Oh, so
According to what the,
it wouldn't matter if we voted it lower or not, it's still.
well, I mean, you can vote it, but that's what they're telling you in the email from the county, is that they value the ag land at 87,436, which was down about 3,500 from the year before.
So we can't really adjust the land though.
Because they don't even tell you what it is per acre, it's based on productivity and soil types like Milt said.
Yeah, but can he appeal it though, based on the 6 to 8 acres with some pictures?
That, I'm guessing that's already factored in there.
Oh.
And it'd be hard for us to speculate, so I
Well,
think
they know that.
I think we should leave the land alone.
He can still appeal, even though
Right.
you don't make the recommendation,
Right.
he can still go to the county. Well, you'd have to even if you changed it. I mean, he's gonna have to prove it up at the county level as well.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's go to the billing then. What about the billing you referred to? The land, like Tom said, you probably have to appeal that decision with the state. Is that correct, Tom?
County.
County.
On the land.
On the land, yeah, the 6 to 8 acres. I mean, the assessment that they're charging you for the land.
So is the proper, the buildings are valued at $232,953, is that correct?
Yeah.
That's
about 50,000 more than we spent on it.
There's 2 houses on this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're looking at this printout, the 87 is the land, 35 is the outbuildings, 232 is one house, and 164 is the other. Am I reading that correctly, Elaine?
There's an ag building down there too. That's at 35.
How many buildings are in that 35,000, Jerry? Is it just one building, or is it outbuildings, anything, the 2 houses? Lawn sheds?
One pretty decent building and another pretty poor building.
So just 2 buildings other than the houses?
Yeah.
How big is the decent building? Just curious.
50 by 80.
So 4,000 square foot.
This email breaks down.
This is 4,000 square foot pool shed.
Yeah, I think,
Did you see the email, Troy?
yeah, and I've read it, but you know, I'm looking at a lot of numbers.
There you go.
I got it right here. So it seems like the 35 is real fair on that, Jerry. Would you agree? I would say it'd be over, I'd say it'd be around 50 probably to build up at least.
It's not insulated or nothing.
No, but it's 13 to 15 bucks a square foot depending on the size of the building and your wall heights and what kind of doors, and you can even go as high as 20 if you got overhead doors and a lot of windows for like a pole barn if you're more than 14 foot high sidewalls. So
That's what they are, is 14 foot.
So 35, if that's a decent building, that seems fair. Very fair. So how about the house on Ash at 164? I don't know anything about it. Tell us about it.
Well, we didn't put any complaint in on it, but it's probably at least 10,000 more than we got in.
So you're only asking for the land?
No, I'm asking on the owner occupied.
Oh, okay. That's the other house here. What's the address for that one? Is that on here?
The address?
Is it Ash?
That's on me.
I think it's Ash Street, Ash Street. Possibly Ash Street.
There's 300 East Ash.
That's the second house, isn't it?
Yeah, what's the address of the first house?
303 East Maple.
Okay. So they have that assessed at 232,000.
Mhm.
So you said you think that's too high. What do you think's a fair
Way too
assessment? What do you think's a fair assessment on that?
Well, I think we worked on 175.
You know what the square footage is on the main floor of that house?
1,700.
On the main? Plus a 2-stall attached garage? Well, I think 232 is more than fair, to be real honest with you.
A lot more than we got in.
It's about current value, not what it built for, you know.
Depreciate, it needs work.
Well, I understand, but I mean, even going back to 2018 construction costs, you're looking at $204 plus the garage, plus finished basement, plus central air, plus patio doors, plus decks. That's 2-year-old, 3-year-old costs. I'm thinking 230. I bet it cost of construction is well over your 230 assessed value. I'm guaranteed.
Well, it wasn't back then in 2008.
I know, it sucks, doesn't it? The good news is you've had a lot of appreciated value on your house, so the market value is also considerably higher. So it enriching you financially. Unfortunately, with that comes higher taxes. Trust me, I know. My taxes have gone up a lot.
Bad part is you get up so high, I can't even get my taxes froze. I'm a disabled veteran. Most other states, disabled veterans don't pay any taxes at all on their homes.
Well, you should be able to qualify for a reduction.
Yeah, I did that.
He got 150,000
right off.
Okay.
But get some wrote off, they just raise the valuation, so
Yeah.
that write-off don't mean nothing.
According to this email, Milt, it used to be $100,000 adjustment. Now it's $150 for the VA adjustment. So
your tax would be a lot more if you had that 150,000 on there. A lot more.
Does he get a homeowners and disabled and senior discount, or which?
Well, he gets an owner occupied discount too.
And he gets above 65 and a VA and a disabled veteran?
No,
So he gets
too,
three.
the VA, or through the veterans, he gets that discount plus the owner occupied.
So that's 2. What about over 65?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you can apply for that too? It says on the back of the taxes over 65 you can apply.
No, I don't think if he's got the veterans, I don't think he could.
Oh, either or. Oh, okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that's right.
So the recommendations. Land, I think, has to stay, right?
yeah,
The $35,000 building probably is adequate.
very fair.
The question is with the owner occupied house and the second house.
I think the assessments seem fair
I don't.
and in line, I think, with mine, which makes it equitable, and that's the whole purpose of the assessment and evaluation process is fair and equitable.
Never been 1 year it hasn't went up.
Agreed? Yes. Agreed.
Is there a motion to adjust any of the rates?
I'd like to see it down at least to that 202 so I can get it frozen.
In my opinion, it wouldn't be fair of me to make a motion to lower it and fair to all of the property owners in the city. And we want to treat them all fairly and equitably. And it seems to me like if I made a motion to lower it, that wouldn't be fair to all the other property owners.
Well, I think it would.
Well, there's no motion, Tom.
You still need to have a motion to leave it. If there's not a motion to adjust, you still have to make a motion on your recommendation to the county.
So Doden makes a motion to deny the request to lower the assessment and to leave it as the county had it.
Boone second.
It's a Motion by Bowden and seconded to leave the values as assessed. Is there any further discussion amongst the equalization board?
Yeah, I got a question. Tom, if they don't change it at all, I don't think he can appeal to the county. Am I correct on that?
I thought if you didn't agree with the county, or agree with the local, you could take it to the county.
Yeah, I think you still can.
Yeah.
I think it has to be a,
When we look at the statute.
I could be wrong, but
I thought if you filed one, you didn't agree with what the local board said,
Yeah,
you
but
could
if
take
the
it up with the county.
if you don't, yeah, you're probably right on that. I was thinking if they didn't change it.
Cause I thought we had one year
He could probably.
that they did not like what the local board agreed upon
So
and
they
took it to
it.
the county level.
Okay,
I could be wrong too.
but I just thought that way give him an opportunity if he wants to. Maybe he can either way, I'm not sure.
I was looking for the statute here, so.
Here, the tax, it says from the decision of your local board, you may appeal to your county board by filing
Okay, so
a
he can,
written notice of appeal with the county auditor on or before the first Tuesday in April.
okay, so they can, even if they deny it, he can still, okay.
Okay.
That's right on the
On the
tax.
card, okay.
Any further discussion?
Can you make sure you get the copy of that?
He would have gotten that in the mail, but yeah, I can.
Okay.
There no further discussion?
I just said Lane's gonna give him a copy.
No further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Appeal is denied. Sorry, sir. Review and approve assessment roll.
So those are the books.
Do we have to sign these?
No, just make the motion to.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment?
Bill moves to approve the assessment roll.
Do we have a second?
Motion by Doden, seconded to approve the assessment roll. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. No more items on the equalization board agenda, so we will adjourn the equalization board.
Done for second.
Thanks, Russ.
I'll go back to my other meeting.
Thank you, guys.
Jerry, that, the bottom of
We'll get on
that
to the
notice
next
right
one.
there.
Okay.
The bottom of that, this notice.
Then she's gonna brief us on the electric.
That gives you, this paragraph gives you direction on where to go.
There is some hope.
If we reconvene the state council meeting about 8:32-ish.
As far as them red rocks in the lawn go, I get a lot more than red rocks. I get chunks of asphalt and sod.
We had two reports. One, you want to do the fire first?
Sure. So Tara stopped in my office this afternoon and asked me to share this letter that is at your place setting in regards to upgrading the radios. So I said I would share it with you. I believe he's gonna come to the next meeting and visit about it.
Okay.
You know if the 50,000 was re-equipping our current radios, or was it all new radio?
So they, brand new, because it said they stopped servicing the current radios.
Okay.
But if you guys have any questions, give them a call.
Answer next.
And the next item, I think, is to discuss the outage this morning.
So Mike Antonson asked if I would just give a brief description of what happened this morning. He's probably home in bed. But he just wrote, due to the wet blowing snow and drizzle mix, a few of our transmission lines were galloping, creating arcing conditions causing the power to blink. The high winds and galloping of the phases also resulted in some overhead transmission hardware to break, resulting in the extended outage this morning. The first call came in at 1:24 a.m. from WAPA, notifying us that the city's 115 kV breaker inside the WAPA substation had tripped. The poor visibility, along with the snow and muddy conditions, made it difficult to isolate and fix the problems. Once the major problem was discovered, the city had to obtain a clearance from WAPA to perform maintenance on the line, which took a few hours as they were having problems everywhere, not just in Beresford. The problem was fixed, and the clearance was then released back to WAPA, restoring power around 10:50 a.m. I think all of that entire department deserves a big thank you.
Yes. I got some video from Jerry, middle of the night there, up in a bucket.
Right. Holding on to your life.
Yep.
Jerry was up in the bucket?
No, that's not what I said. The video was forwarded from Jerry.
No, I think you said it was out, Jerry.
Yeah. I think I said from.
Yeah. I talked to Mike briefly. He said it took him a long time to find it because visibility was bad.
Mm-hmm.
He said the pole line is oriented to the east, and they couldn't see it. They had broken one of the insulators and some sort of a shock absorber. And the wind every once in a while was causing the line to actually come out and snap and hit the pole. And once they found that, then it took about 3 hours for WAPA to come down from Sioux Falls, because the WAPA substation had also went out up there, and then another one went out by Vermilion. So they're hoping when the new line gets up, they can take the old line down and go and check all the poles, because they said they really haven't done major maintenance in 17, 18 years. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
2003.
Right.
And that's the line that follows the fence line?
Yeah, so they were driving down the interstate.
Yep.
But they couldn't see because of visibility where that was broken on the east side of the pole until it hit the pole once. He said they could see it arcing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike said he actually walked the line and found it
Yeah, so
instead of driving along the interstate.
which I was fun.
Ranger in that ditch would have been a good time to use the Ranger in the tracks.
I think they also used one of the contractors.
The IES
truck
construction was a asset to them last night.
that helped them
Mm-hmm.
drive down the ditch and
They
four-wheel drive.
used their truck.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
Well, I drove to Sioux Falls like 10 o'clock this morning, and I couldn't believe how bad the lines were
Yeah.
doing that
I
this
did too.
morning
I
at
was
10
up there by
o'clock.
11.
I mean, it was,
They were still swaying pretty good, that big transmission line that runs on the west side of the interstate, north of, starting about where? Vibrant exit or so?
yeah,
They were just
about 10 miles. I mean,
swinging.
it was, I couldn't believe they weren't snapping just looking at them. It looked like that old cartoon where they were playing jump rope with the telephone poles.
Is that the wire we just replaced? Didn't we upgrade the wire on that line as part of this new substation? We harvested that old wire.
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Couldn't know, because that
Well, I
line.
could say yes, I could say no. I could say,
No, there's a-
I do not know.
Oh, there was.
You'd
one
think
that
that they
broke,
would have
what,
found
2
that
years ago?
I don't
peaceful.
remember. I know we pulled some wire down and kept it, harvested it, and we're gonna reuse it, I think.
I think this set broken for a while.
Who knows?
Department head reports. Austin Hanson.
All right, yeah, I'm here to just recommend hiring Todd Hanson on part-time at $65 an hour. Talked to Jerry, he's not here tonight, but, after the last council meeting. As made it clear, Jerry's making recommendations on that. So what I did is I threw some numbers together. You guys have them in your package. And just wanted to compare the different wages, what myself, Todd, and Tony, what we're currently making with the city's pension match, the 6%, and then what we will be making after Todd retires. And that would be with Todd making 20 hours, or working 20 hours a week. I do not foresee him working 20 hours a week very often, if at all. So again, down below that, I threw together some more numbers. We do have $10,000 in our budget for this year for part-time salaries, and so I just broke it out. How many weeks he could work at 20 hours? He could work almost 8 hours or 8 weeks, 12 hours a week, almost 13, and then at 8 hours a week, he's almost at 20 weeks for that $10,000 budget to still keep within that limit. And again, I can't give you an exact number of hours he's going to work. It's going to be as needed. We're trying to go through things right now, and it's a pretty quick process. Here we go. This is what I do here, and we just move on to the next thing, trying to cover everything before he's done on Friday. So basically, what I would probably see happening is I'm going through things. All right, I remember talking about this, but could you come in or even help over the phone or remotely, remote in on the computer, a few hours here and there. So.
Need a motion on this, Tom?
I have a question.
Sure.
You did any type of background on this Todd Hansen fellow?
Shall I make a motion to hire Todd Hansen part-time as described for $65 an hour plus the city telephone plus any other service that he needs to work with Austin to keep the services going. Part of it's the internet service or whatever else. And then the budget of $10,000. If it's above that, you have to come back to the council and get approved.
Got that.
So $65 an hour, up to $10,000?
Up to $10,000, which if he needed more than that, he'd have to get the council approval. And then he gets a city telephone, and then he would have access to the phone, internet, and cable, because if Austin called him at 2 o'clock in the morning, he'd have to have access to it so he could work on it immediately. There would be no delay as needed.
Can he be on the city's phone plan as an independent contractor, or would we need to just reimburse him for a portion of his phone?
We have a motion, so before we can discuss any further, we need a second.
William will second. Motion by Schott, seconded to authorize part-time hire of Todd Hansen at the rate of $65 per hour with the use of the city phone. Is there any further discussion?
I guess, is he gonna be a W-2 employee, or is he 1099?
I assume W-2, isn't he?
Yeah, he'd be
part-time. Then my question is.
So if he's a W-2 employee and we're paying our share of the Social Security and taxes and all that stuff, why the $15 an hour increase from his current hourly equivalent?
Just looking at loaded wages and everything. And
I'm not interested in working backwards from the budget to get to that number. I'm wondering, if it was a consultant and he was 1099 and you come in here and propose $65 an hour, I wouldn't even question it.
Right.
Because he's got all his own expenses and his own taxes out of that. But if he's on a W-2 basis and we're paying all of our share of the taxes and everything, and he's covered under our insurance, so I'm questioning the increase if he's an on the payroll employee.
I guess I thought the $65 is fair, looking at the $150 to $200 an hour for a consultant to come in here and do some work for us. I talked with Jerry, he thought that was fair. I don't really have an answer for you on that W-2, and taxes and all that stuff, but Jerry and I had agreed upon 65. Maybe that's something we need to talk to Jerry about.
I got a question.
That our consultants are how much?
$150 to $200 an hour.
And does that come out of your $10,000?
No.
That's
different. Okay, yep.
I can verify it because I saw a bunch of paperwork when they did the fiber that's what the consulting fee was, $100 to $300 per hour.
when you put it that way, I wouldn't have had any questions. Working it from the budget backwards to make it come out to $65, like questions. I have a lot of questions about doing it that way. Tell me it's double that for an independent consultant to come in, but he's not really going to be doing consulting work so much as advising on technical issues, right?
It'd be more likely to be advising regulatory things with me, things like that. I would say, yeah, and less on the technical side.
Answered all my questions. Thank you.
What was the first part of your answer? I didn't hear you. Something about regulatory?
Yeah, helping me on the regulatory side of things. So, yep, and less on the technical. So there may be some technical things that come into play there, but I would say more on the regulatory side.
Contractual negotiation, legal issues,
yeah,
as far as negotiating.
Correct.
What rates?
What would you normally spend that $10,000 part-time budget on?
Typically we just throw it in there. The last however many years I've been here, almost 6 years now, we have not spent that. More on the part-time summer help. You know, if we need somebody a kid to come in and I don't know. I know when I was in high school, I came in and I refurbished a bunch of the pedestals, and we've talked about that before, but we've never had it done since I've been here. So.
I think somebody came in and helped right in the beginning of the fiber project, doing some markings of all the locations.
Courtney did some of that. Yeah, actually, yeah. So when the swimming pool was closed down, while they were building it, she was on our payroll for a little while.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, sir.
You want to stick around for Tony's?
Wayne Johnson, Finance.
So February, we received payment number 2 of 4 from the South Dakota GOED grant of $347,254.34. That was good news. There is just shy of $400,000 remaining in that grant coming to us.
How much did you say? How much that more coming?
Just shy of $400,000.
Okay.
We also paid the 2014 and 2016 clean water, drinking water SRF loans, which came to $27,792. The East Substation, we paid out $150,021.52, and the Fiber to the Home project, we paid out $34,935. Teresa was mentioning to me that there's $40,000 in the South Dakota FIT that is earmarked for the bridges. And she had mentioned with the upgrades between the carpet, the furnace, moving that money out of South Dakota FIT and putting it into their account.
I mean, I don't remember what it was all earmarked for, and if we've done these big improvements, to me, that's what we would earmark stuff for. Don't get me wrong, their negative cash balance is not going to disappear with this $40,000, but I also don't, why do we have $40,000 in savings waiting for them to do more improvements if
Furnace and carpet seems like it's capital improvements.
Yeah. So that was just a suggestion that I had.
How much was it?
$40,000. So that would be up to you guys if you would like me to move that money.
Need action on that, or?
I think I'd like direction. I don't know if we need to have action on it, but.
Well, that's what it would be there for, just for capital improvements. But the expenditures that we've already paid, were they budgeted on the approved budget?
The total furnace was?
Yeah, because we split it between last year and this year.
So it's, well, the carpet and the furnace wasn't unexpected, it was budgeted, and just expended as budgeted.
We can leave it, it doesn't matter.
How old's that building? 15 years
Well,
old?
we're probably gonna be looking at fixing the roof down the road.
So maybe just make a note that in our next future capital improvements that we use up our savings instead of.
Well, we're gonna have to do something for some type of maintenance shed for the golf course. Very soon.
I can see the roof being $43,000.
So you need a motion on the financial report?
No, we're not doing anything with it. Oh, sorry.
Just leave the money alone until you figure out.
I don't know if she's done yet.
She's still talking. Are you still talking?
No, I'm
Oh, you're done, okay.
Is that all right then, a motion on the report? You want to hold off on the money until we figure out something?
Some of the stuff that you told me the other day, I think that was very enlightening. Todd found maybe another grant, right? Or.
So maybe Austin wants to touch base
Sure.
on this?
Yeah, so the STA, South Dakota Telephone Association, approached us the week of the Super Bowl and said that the state potentially has another $25 million available for grants. And then there was potentially another $75 million on top of that available. So we scrambled, hurried up, put some things together, sent them, because I needed some potential money amounts that we would like to submit, as well as all the rest of the companies in the state. So we submitted some things to them. We got a phone call on like Thursday, got it to them on Friday, and they had to have it into the state by Sunday. They came back and there was $25 million made available. So we submitted for another $448,000 grant. We are supposed to hear back by Friday. So not heard anything yet.
And what was that for?
For our fiber home project.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's good.
So.
So that big negative $520,000 will get smaller if we can obtain some of that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was some good news.
Hopefully it'll be a nice retirement.
Yes. Hopefully Friday or by Friday we'll
No.
get a yes.
You'll hear back this coming Friday.
Yep.
Yes, that's the date that they told us would be done.
Excellent.
And find a nice cake.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, if we get to that, at least get the guy a cake.
I think you'd like roasted chicken instead.
Yeah, but there's some of us that would appreciate cake.
We gonna have a party Friday for him here or there or where? Nowhere?
Todd has requested no party.
Oh, okay.
Alright, we'll be at the MTC about 2.
Keep knocking on the door.
He has to be. Austin doesn't take over till 5:01.
I think shall I make a motion for the February financial report, Debbie Lane, Johnson went over.
Motion by Schott, seconded to approve the February financial report. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Okay, an hourly wage for 24.
So Allison was putting together a spreadsheet and she came across an error in the union book. And I think it's in your council packet.
Just need a motion on there to
Yep.
correct it. No problem. So Doug makes a motion to correct Tony's new hourly rate effective March 8th to what should have been $27.06 per hour.
Wait a minute, I don't think it's 27, doesn't that paperwork say 26 on there?
No, 27.
That's what we approved at the last meeting, but the union book was error.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
The union
Correction.
Yep.
Second that motion.
Motion by Joe and seconded to update the hourly wage for 24 effective March 8th, 2706. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Update on dog park.
Thanks, Austin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have no idea about this dog park. I didn't know if Lou Gertzman was gonna be here or if Art has an update to it.
For
The
The dog park.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I spoke several times with Lou and I texted him. He kinda talked to me and then Jerry had me call Lou to come in to talk to Jerry on some specifics on the park. A couple of different spots for the fencing and the cost. Jerry kinda recommended we go over some of the areas and maybe put a budget together for next year if it's at all possible. And then Lou kinda made the suggestion that he would like to kind of get the fencing to be rubber coated, which costs a little more, but it would last, 10 years or more. So he put some projects together where he kind of liked the idea that we could review. Jerry kind of recommended money-wise to maybe try to put something together for next year.
Is that where the old horseshoe pits are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody ever uses those anymore?
We're gone.
They are gone? Well, then nobody's using them anymore.
It's grass.
My question with Lulu, I did talk to him about several issues. One of them was, I want to make sure that wherever we put it, we want to make sure the homeowners next to the dog park or around the dog park have a little say in the matter, because I don't want to have the dog park too close to a house where someone starts yelling and screaming about 10 dogs barking. And then the other issue was, I did get a little feedback from some people in town, and they said, wherever the dog park's at, they would like to have the people, if at all possible, because there's a leash law in Beresford. If it's gonna be in the park, they don't wanna have the dogs running around wild and then put them in the dog park. They'd like to have the people that are walking the dogs, especially by the baseball fields. If there's a game, there's gonna be a lot of people, maybe have them on a leash and let them loose in the park with a leash during a game, because if there's 500 people at a game and there's dogs running all over the place. So those are some of the inputs that we talked about. And then
So what was the issue with the leash? There isn't?
No, some of the people, if there's a baseball game or someone owns a house around the area and the dog's running, say 300 or 400 feet from the owner, not saying a big dog or something, and there's say 500 people at a baseball game, some of the people might make a concern saying, okay, why isn't the dog on a leash, by the dog park, rather than let it run around? And then
Why wouldn't they just have the dog on the leash till it gets in the dog park?
Well, that's the question that they were asking. And then the other issue that we really brought up with the police chief was, we're gonna try to make sure that most of the dogs got tags, to try to have a working deal, so they have shots. They have no objection about the dog park area. They were just saying they'd rather have the dogs on a leash if there's a baseball game or something going on, in the park. And then the water was another one, and then the parking area was another one. And then I did talk to Greg, and he made a comment, I already talked about it before, about by a bandstand, that he's talking about ripping down that old shed there and putting it over by the golf course carts. So there could be more room over there by the bandstand for parking. And then he came up with the cost about $15 a foot for the fence, includes post, top rail, about $100 for each corner post, and about $225 for each gate. That's an estimate. But Jerry recommended, a couple times to me, that he said he'd probably like to throw some figures together this year to work on doing something next year because of the budget. That's what he said anyways.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Art. New business change order number 1. Yes, commercial. What's the amount on this one? Is it?
It doesn't look like there's any at all. It just looks like it's rebuilding an additional half mile of 12.47 kV distribution line between structures WE40 and W40. Additional costs will be reimbursed through the construction allowance unit.
This is what Mike, I think, had talked to our committee at least about. They have all the materials from takedown that the engineers have agreed they would put up, and we have enough left over in our allowance that will cover this construction. Using our materials, but their manpower.
It was bringing in an additional transmission line into that north industrial area, correct?
I think so.
Yeah. And that was reusing the wire that we took down and replaced with a bigger wire?
Yep.
So that's where the wire went, you were talking about?
Yep, that's for this. So we're getting some additional benefit for the same price. That's basically it.
I think our committee has talked individually with Mike and amongst ourselves, and we all were fine with the change, so.
So I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 with IES Commercial Inc. in regards to the 115 kV transmission line construction.
Delano, second.
Motion by Doug and seconded to approve change order number 1 with IES Commercial for the 115,000 volt transmission line. Any further discussion?
So what's the total amount on it then?
Zero.
There's not.
Oh,
It's a
zero.
$20 extra.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
What was the contingency that was built in there? So Mike called and he was talking about $37,000 of the $50,000 worth of contingency that was built in. Is that correct?
I do not know.
So there would still be a $13,000 worth of fluff in that bid? Is that what you understood?
Yeah.
Who was the other committee member? Mike?
Am I?
Did he talk to you?
I don't know that he, sorry.
Never
I
did.
don't know
Did he
his
get
scope,
Okay.
Because I don't know that he did get over you.
No, he didn't.
I apologize.
Well, they built a little cushion into the original bid, some contingency in case something comes up, and we haven't had any surprises. So, this is gonna benefit that area.
No further discussion. All fair say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Pay request number 5 in the amount of $122,4325 to IES Commercial. Is there a motion to approve pay request number 5?
Make a motion to pay for request number 5.
Doden, second.
Motion by Schott, seconded to approve pay request number 5 in the amount of $122,4325. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pay request approved. Is there a motion to approve the part-time seasonal hires for the golf course and parks?
Shall make a motion for part-time seasonal hires for golf course and parks.
And a second.
Motion by Schott, seconded to approve part-time seasonal hires for part-time, or is it that golf course and parks?
Do you want their
I was gonna ask,
rate?
do names and rates have to be read into the motion?
You've got them here, I mean, they can put them in the minutes as long as you guys don't. But yeah.
The one question I have is, these rates all are consistent with their years of service, and we're not
Yep.
deviating and going someplace.
No, staying within the
No
chart.
roads.
Good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Consider offering free dumping. I think we do this every year. Is it the whole month?
So, let's see, yeah. I think it would be best to do it the entire month. It just encourages people to clean.
Absolutely.
Need a motion?
That's everything but tires. We're not gonna take the tires.
Yeah, or white goods.
Right.
Yeah. So
No
it's
tires or
construction.
what else?
White goods, anything
Like
like,
appliances.
Oh, appliances, no appliances.
How about Kellogg converters?
We'll take those.
Let's drop those off.
We can pick them up from you, dude.
Can I install them too? We need a motion on that or not?
I believe so.
Shall make a motion to consider offering, which we are considering, the beer to residents at the Rumble site in April for the entire month of 2021. With no tires and no appliances or other materials not allowed.
Wait a second.
Are you seconding the motion to consider or the actual motion to do it?
I have a motion by Schott and seconded to offer free dumping for the month of April,
Sorry.
right? In accordance with what is and is not allowed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Summer hours for the Rumble site, what are they?
They are Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 1:30 to 4:30, Wednesday, 1 to 7, Saturday, 9 to noon, and then they reopen again at 1 to 3.
Are they posted on the website? Scrolling on the website?
Yeah. We can put them on Facebook too.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
What are those hours again?
We don't need to set the hours, do we?
No, those are the summer hours. I think we should rename them spring, summer hours.
What was those hours again? I got Wednesday 1 to 7, Saturday 9 to 1 to 3 for Saturday. What about Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
Monday they are closed. Sunday and Monday they are closed.
Okay. Sunday, Monday,
Tuesday,
okay. Tuesday,
Thursday,
Thursday.
Friday. Now I'm drawing blank. 1:30 to 1 to 4. 1:30 to
You just rattle them
1 to
off.
4.
Whatever you
1
want.
to 4.
Yeah. Okay, 1 to 4.
I
Fine.
can't look at my
I have to
chart.
say it fast.
No, that's fine.
1:30 to 4:30.
1:30 to 4:30.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
1:30 to 4:30, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Good job.
No travel requests. Is there a motion to authorize payment of the bills?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Aaron and seconded to authorize payment of bills, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no executive session. No further agenda items for the council, meeting adjourned.
You lost us 5 minutes ago. 9 o'clock.
You lost 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, she turned into a pumpkin.
What's that one?